Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Outcast. I am, oddly enough, your host for this one, Wolf, and I'm joined by.
HC.
And Rush.
And this week, if you haven't realized it from the title card and the title of the video, we are covering RWBY Volume 1.
Yes, and for the first time ever on the Outcast, it's all three of us.
I managed to drag HC and Rush into this with me. Surprise, surprise. They actually said yes.
Yep. Well, why
Got
not?
down on one knee and everything.
I did.
You may have been able to see it. I didn't because Wolf, I guess, can't afford a flight ticket to get to me, and that's a problem. But so I sadly didn't see him get on one knee. But on the other hand, I don't think I'm missing much.
Ouch.
Yeah, unless he's actually a wolf, and then that will be something, I guess.
Wolves don't
Anyway,
have knees.
hey, if Wolf takes the initiative of hosting this, I need to be the sarcastic asshole. So let's
feel
go.
attacked.
No, that's always my job. Excuse me. We're never
Okay, I
missing
messed
that.
it up. From the top. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Back on topic, we are
remind me
covering
of that
RWBY
when
Volume
Rush.
1 this week. And what better time to do it than to lead up to Volume 6? But before we jump into our thoughts on each and every episode of Volume 1, how about we talk a little bit about our non-spoiler thoughts for those of you who might be watching that are not RWBY fans and might get interested in the show. So how about a few thoughts that are very non-spoilerish?
Can I go?
Yeah, you go first because I have. Well, let me preface this with I had always followed RoosterTeeth and I'd always seen the trailers for this, so I have some weird ways that this went in my head, but it turned out to be different. So HC, you go first.
I don't doubt it.
Okay, so my first time I've ever heard of RWBY, of this show, was actually through the Bearcast. If you guys remember an episode where we compared the How to Train Dragon characters to characters from other franchises, Wolf chose to compare them to RWBY. And ever since then, he either mentioned it or recommended it to me, and it was always in my backlog. The huge scroll of shows and movies and books and games that is my backlog. It's really long, and it was there. I had no idea when I will be actually seeing it, and then Wolf brought up the idea that we could do an outcast about it, and kind of document the perspective of myself, a person who will be exposed to the show for the first time. So I went to this completely blind. Maybe I heard the name RWBY a bit after we did that episode. Like it seems to be one of those shows that are brought up in terms of if it's an anime or not. So I heard about it there, and now today in the morning I actually watched the volume 1. All the episodes, and I enjoyed it. I'll say that I'm not regretting my time, how I spent my time. I really enjoyed the show. I like the art style. I like the characters. Some stuff are a bit clunky, and I get it that it's not an actual studio production, right? It's
No,
sort of an.
It was at the time it was made by a fairly small company still.
Would I be wrong if I said it's kind of indie?
2013.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's definitely indie. Because back in 2013, RoosterTeeth was not this massive corporation. Had they even done an RTX yet at that point?
Yeah, they've done RTX at that point. Yeah, they were much smaller than they are now.
Okay, so yeah, so it's indie, and you can kind of tell it's indie, but at the same time, like for I'll probably get more into what I think about the animation as we move along. But I like the art style, I like the characters. The animation is a bit clunky, and so is the voice acting. But again, seeing how this is an indie production and they probably didn't have much of a budget or time, I can let that slide, and it still looks nice in a sense. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I also like that episodes are not very long. Like because most episodes of shows like this are around 22 minutes or something. This jumps around from like 5 minutes to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to 7 minutes, and it kind of keeps the pace going. Like I'm not tiring out after watching an episode, so it was an easy binge.
This
And
does change in later volumes, but
Oh, great!
but
So we'll
okay,
even
have
then,
to
it's
we'll have
still
to start watching it at the last moment a little bit earlier than we did.
yeah.
yeah, we'll have to start earlier for the next volume. But overall, I did like that. It's not necessarily wasting any time. It's just here are the characters, here's the story, here's the world. Let's just go. Let's do this thing, and I enjoyed my time.
I feel there are
And
some people who would disagree with you on the not wasting any time part.
well, I'm talking about volume one specifically. So
They
if
would still disagree with you.
okay, so that's the fun thing about having an opinion. We disagree with each other, so whatever. RWBY fans, welcome to the Bearcast YouTube channel where we disagree with each other all the time, most of the time,
And where
somewhere
HC
in the
is
middle.
mostly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, hey, hey.
What can I
You know
do?
what? No, he is right. He's right. I'm mostly wrong.
Okay,
Well, Rush, your
so
thoughts?
I had seen, uh, like, so my exposure to Ruby had been usually at the end of certain Rooster Teeth, just I guess YouTube or YouTube videos where they would have like a introduction for it or something like that. And there would always be like a metal music in the background. So what I expected was it to be, a very, very fighting centric anime style, um, anime styles just
Show,
show.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What I got was a teenage drama high school anime. Um,
yeah. Pretty much for the first
for the first
volume or
one.
two. Yeah, that's exactly what you
And
can
So,
expect.
and you know what? To people who may have not seen our 13 reasons why Outcast, then I'll just add that seeing this show and getting that vibe, I was kind of feeling right at home because
Oh
this
no.
is
oh,
because this is my niche genre. Like I said, this is a genre that I can just sit back and, for the most part, enjoy. Not every high school show or movie is good by any means, but it's one of those things that I can sit back and enjoy it. So yeah, on that front, it didn't really turn me off from the show, if that's something.
hmm and but other than that, like, I enjoyed it. Um, with HC, the animation was clunky, but I didn't expect it to be. I didn't even realize the date until just now, but like that even
Mm.
kind of gives it more leeway, in my opinion, because I know how small they were at the time. Um, the voice acting, I actually didn't. There wasn't too many issues with it. I was fine with it. I just can't get past Yellow's voice because I know I've. Uh, it's Barbara
You know exactly.
Dunkelman.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so like
you know
every
exactly
time
who
I
she
hear
is.
her, I just hear Barb, and I'm like, she just wants to make a pun, doesn't she?
I
Uh,
mean, oh boy.
oh, are we gonna get there? Also, well, I
Eventually.
did say this to HC. I wasn't able to finish the last two episodes last night, so, um, but
Okay.
yeah, and then just let's
We'll
see.
catch you up to speed then when we get to them.
Yeah. Other general thoughts. I do like the fighting scenes. They're pretty good, and they do a pretty good job of establishing character without really much dialogue. Like, what's her name? Is her name Marina? Uh, like you get the. Oh right, that's a spoiler, but I'll get into it later. But you get you get some good character. Just I forgot where I was going with this. They do a good
Great
job
start
of
already.
showing the characters. The coffee hasn't kicked in yet. All right. I didn't sleep well
Fair.
last night either. Okay.
Fair.
Man, you know,
Fair.
we all just said, you know what, we're going to do RWBY. For some reason, we are not going to sleep.
Yeah.
That seems to be a common thing
Well,
here.
see, I did sleep.
I mean, people demand us at our best, and we're giving them exactly what they demanded. Us at our best.
Yeah, no, trust me, it doesn't get better.
No.
So
at all.
I had hockey practice last night, so I'm just sore everywhere, and it's so bad because no matter how long I slept, it wouldn't have been a good sleep. So that's kind of why I'm still kind of off. Anyway, they do a good job of showing you, not telling you how the characters are. Like you can see a lot of their actions describe who they are without them having to talk their way. It's not like they're all talkative like certain people in the show, not here.
All right. Fair enough.
Waiting on you, Wolf. You're the only one.
Yeah, you're the host. You have
well,
to go.
I'm the one who convinced these two to do it, so I guess that already should give you some idea that I've seen more of the volumes than they have. I think as of right now, Rush you might know a little bit more past Volume 1, but for the most part, you've only seen Volume 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then HC's only ever seen Volume 1, so
yeah, I'm a newbie.
Going to be the reactions to. I think they're definitely going to be like the reactions that are going to be most interesting from this show, since there's a lot that I would love to talk about, but can't talk about it and have to be very careful about what I say, considering major spoilers for later volumes. What I'll say for Volume 1 is that I think it starts off immediately really well in the terms of how it introduces itself. And for episode 1 and everything, and it immediately draws you in to the world. It's definitely, looking back at it now compared to later volumes and just other shows, even at this time, it's not the best thing in the world. It's definitely, as HC said, indie. But it's also very endearing, because to me, you can definitely get the sense of the people working behind it. All of them have never really done anything like this. And you can tell it, in my opinion. You can tell, like, while they're definitely making something they want to make and are enjoying making it, you can tell they've never had any experience doing something like this. And at the time, I don't think anyone from Rooster Teeth had any experience doing something like this, because this was a completely original show idea compared to what they had been doing, which did take license from Halo with Red versus Blue, and maybe a few other small things. But this is definitely one of their first animated ventures that was completely original, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe it was. I mean, they do draw on from several anime tropes. I even mentioned to Wolf last night that you basically have newbies of some sort making teams of some sort in a killer forest of some sort, which I related to Naruto, the very first.
I mean, I wouldn't relate it to Naruto.
I'm just saying that idea is like, I was just joking.
I mean, what you get from the first volume, though, is very much slice of life anime. To be the resident weeb of the podcast, it's what was referred to slice of life anime, and that's pretty much what Volume 1 and Volume 2 is. Pretty much, it's just slice of life anime with some magical girl thrown in on the side. And I know people are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I don't care.
Yeah, so slice of life with a few magical girls. So any anime, basically.
Not quite.
Well,
not quite.
You just said you're going to get a few people. He just got a whole bunch of people mad at him.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't know any better, though.
This is the part where
okay, you know,
I know from the podcast.
Like to all RWBY fans and to all RWBY fans who are new to this thing, I don't watch a lot of anime, and it's nothing against that. It's just that I don't really have the time, and like there are animes I like. I enjoyed the first season of Attack on Titan. I need to catch up on everything else. I like Astro Boy fine, and depending on your view, if I've the Last Airbender is an anime or not. I guess you can count that, but yeah, I'm not much into like I'm trying to joke here based on a stereotype. It's nothing against anime itself. So
and now we're on to AT's obligatory covering of his ass.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to deny it, but I also need to explain myself here because, there is a good chance new people who don't know the podcast are listening to this. So might as well.
And be vicious. Careful.
Well, one thing that you said that I do want to bring up, you did say that this was this was just something that wasn't the norm for RoosterTeeth, and I want to say this was actually a very incredible leap of faith that did stick from Monty, the creator, who I believe didn't he pass away recently or last year,
and it's definitely something that we'll probably get into and talk about as we continue reviewing the rest of the volumes.
And so just wanted to bring that up now for those who know RWBY but don't know us. We are aware, well, Wolf and I are aware of this now. HE is. So
I'll take your word for it. That said, I will say one more thing before we jump ahead. The art style for the show, that it's CG, but you can tell it's CG trying to be 2D, if you know what, like cell shaded. I guess it's the term. So something about the art style really reminded me of the Gravity Rush games. And I'm saying this in all the best ways because I love Gravity and I love the designs and I love everything about those games. So I was curious about which one of those came first. And you say RWBY Volume 1 was 2013? Okay, so Gravity Rush was 2012. So I won't necessarily say one took from the other because I think Gravity Rush tried to emulate that anime feel. But like RWBY does. So, but something about the way this show looks and the way some characters act and everything, it just reminded me of Gravity Rush. So and I'm saying this as a compliment. Like I said, love those games.
Mean, they both draw from the same sources, so that'd be exactly why they have those.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
It's worth pointing out, right? Like this is, as I said, it's definitely, as we all said, it's definitely an indie show and you can definitely feel it. And it's also worth pointing out, like, this is all done if you don't know, this is done in an animation software called Poser, which is from my understanding, fairly entry level when it comes to animation. But some of the stuff that you see the animators get out of this software is genuinely like, wow, they actually managed to pull something like this off in that particular piece of software. And it's definitely, again, this is why I say, and I'll say this for all 5 volumes, it's definitely been, for the people working on the show, I think for them it's definitely been a learning experience from day one, and you can see them through each volume get better at what it is they're doing. And I think that's an important thing to note, right? Because you can see improvement in many different areas from volume to volume to volume. Not just how it looks, but in terms of storytelling, in terms of character development, like everything is just consistently improved upon by all the people still working on the show. So I know I didn't exactly talk about the show a lot, but Volume 1 is definitely something I recommend you watch if you've not seen RWBY. So there's my recommendation for Volume 1. That's non-spoiler.
Well, yeah, with that, I think we've all gone over our non-spoiler reviews.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, shall we move along to spoiler-ish?
I suppose so.
Well, you're wrong. Let's keep talking about it now.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I'll go first since I didn't finish.
I guess. What are you going to start with? Do you want to start with episode 1, or do you want to start with these small trailers?
I want to start with episode 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think episode 1's where you get the main meat of everything. The trailers do have a bit.
If
you have something to say, go ahead.
Just a quick thing. I you guys tell me if maybe I'm seeing things or not, but is it me or is the animation in the trailers better than the animation in the show?
It is, to a degree.
Okay.
Because there's definitely the show, it's a lot longer, so they took a lot, and it's a lot more episodes. The trailer were just 5-minute bites at most, and they had a lot of time to devote to just one thing. After the trailer, they had to devote a lot more to many more episodes, as well as they didn't have a lot of staff working on hand for animation at that point in time either, so things were much more divided.
Okay, so
so you can definitely, if it's not a fight scene in Volume 1, there's a lot of stilted stuff going on. Like running animation in Volume 1 definitely looks really bad. Talking animation also can be pretty bad. With
expressions are a bit
movements.
Question, Wolf, are people in the background always black silhouettes, even in later seasons?
You'll see it until the end of Volume 2. After that, no.
Okay.
Something was just an artistic choice. When I first saw it,
it was in the terms of we don't have the time to animate actual models,
that's
so
what I
let's
thought.
just do this.
But since you said the animation gets better, it was just a question in my mind, and I guess I would have seen it, like you said, it's at the end of Volume 2, so I would have seen it, sometime in the next week, i.e., next week right before we do this podcast. But it was still a question that I thought I should ask.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So episode 1.
Yeah.
So, like Wolf said, it's a great introduction. We get it's one of those where you get introduced into the world as opposed to just like the character narrating everything. Of course, you get narration at the beginning, but you get an introduction.
It's not the character. It's not RWBY.
Yeah, exactly. And you get just the beginning fight scene, so you get the feel of how this show is set to be. And then, this actually, if you had seen this episode alone, I still would have thought, oh, this is just your, anime girl fighting style show. But then at the very end, you realize, oh, this is about she wants to go to school. Now
slice of life.
Slice of life. There you go. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I love how in order to prove that she needs to get into a school, she needs to carry around this giant axe, which is also a gun.
It's a scythe.
Axe. Oof. Oof.
Okay, not an axe.
The fire counter is on 2.
Yeah, this is. I'm out of my comfort zone with this.
This
so
is
what?
True. Give him some kind of break, ladies and gentlemen.
So what is it actually?
A scythe.
Yes.
Okay.
Grim Reaper. Think of that.
Yeah. Okay. Just I have no idea what it's actually in English. So yeah. Oops. But but in order to get to a school, you need to use this thing, which is also a gun, and do all and. In one sense, this is actually kind of cool. I hope more school tryouts are like this in the future.
No.
Like, what do you prefer? What do you prefer? Have a test or do this? I'll take this.
Here's the thing, right? If referring to anime, in any anime, you would not be the hero of the story.
Oh, of course not.
No one would. That's the problem with anime. There is no connection there. You're not the hero of the story in anime. You are the little dude who gets crushed by the villain in anime.
Yeah,
you're the person who's running away from the fight in anime.
You're the civilian on the sideline who gets killed first.
Actually, yeah. I know I be everyone's character in an anime in this show, but we'll get to him later because he's not in the first episode.
Oh. I already know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you've even seen RWBY, you probably know who he's
Volume
talking
1.
About. Yeah, Volume
Review. 1. Episode 1. Anything else to say, HC?
Not counting the trailers, it was a great introduction and to the world and to RWBY herself. and it just got me interested in seeing more. So good job. I like it.
You brought up the well. Go ahead, Rush. I'll wait.
For what?
Your review
Of the first
episode
episode?
1.
I already
What you
did
thought?
that.
Your thoughts? Oh,
I went first.
really? Zero sleep.
Oh,
Moving
yeah.
on.
Okay. 2 for me, 1 for Wolf.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess my thoughts on episode 1. Again, I have to be careful here. I'm in this awkward position. You brought up the intro narration. Did you realize that was Ozpin talking?
That was the Huntress lady?
No, not the Huntress lady, not the woman, but did you realize it was Ozpin in the intro narration?
I'm still bad for names, so
The headmaster of the academy.
Oh, it
The
was
person you see in volume 1.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I didn't
You
realize
did
it.
did
No,
you realize that was his voice?
No. I thought it was a female voice, to be honest.
I think I can say this. Keep that intro narration in mind going forward. Because it is important. And you'll see this a lot with the show. Going back, I can speak from this standpoint. Going back and watching it after seeing for future volumes, there's a lot of stuff that's I think genuinely enjoyable because you can see a lot of foreshadowed stuff that's used fairly well in my opinion, for the most part, in terms of setting up future things, and it's really good to see. And something I want to bring up that Rush, you brought up earlier when talking about not the non-spoiler review of RWBY Volume 1 is that you talked about how when you saw the show in the little blurb that Rooster Teeth does for a lot of their stuff at the end of their videos, you didn't think that Volume 1 was going to be what you thought Volume 1 would be different than what it was.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up the opening, right, that you see at the end of episode 1 that after that point starts to play every single time.
Yes.
What is that noise?
AC, are you eating?
No.
Are you moving your mic?
No.
Is something moving?
No, nothing's.
It sounds like something is brushing up against your mic. Well, was.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
well, I don't know. So.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
But, fair enough. It's fine. Just curious if something was up. Now we know.
Mm-hmm.
But going back, I wanted to talk about the intro or the opening to all of Volume 1 that you'll see after that. On episode 1 plays at the end. From that point forward, it plays at the beginning of every single episode. You're probably used to it at this point. What did you think about the opening?
I really liked it. I need a song on its own in order to make a final judgment, though. Didn't have the time to do that.
The song's good, but that's not exactly what I'm referring to. I'm more so referring to what the opening shows you. Because, in my opinion, looking back at it now, the opening to Volume 1, while it's nothing bad, it's actually, in my opinion, not a very good opening. Because it gives you no idea what you're getting into for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say this much. Comparing it to other anime scene, which again is not a lot, people. So comparing it to some other openings, I won't say that that other anime openings are really told me what the show is about.
Pay closer attention. You said you've seen Attack on Titan, right?
Yeah, that's the one exception, though. But again, it's like, okay, there are these guys with these I know it's not called this. I'm saying this from a first perspective point of view. Okay, there are these guys with souls and things that carry them around, and they kill titans. Okay, cool. But other than that, I didn't really know anything.
It's very much like you have to pay close attention, and it's definitely worth going back and watching certain anime. Not all of them give you exactly what everything you need to know, or give you kind of an idea of what you might be getting into story-wise, right? Not all of them do that. Not all of them need to do that either. But for the ones that do, you can definitely tell it when they show you kind of a sequence of events in very quick fashion that give you an idea of what you're going to be getting into story wise. And I do feel that's something that a lot of anime intros do need to do, because that's the first thing you're ever going to see when you watch any anime more often than not is this is the intro to the show. This is the first thing you're probably going to find about this particular show. It needs to give you an idea of one, some of the characters you might see, even if you don't know who they are in the intro, you need to kind of understand, all right, so these are the main characters, this is our villain potentially, and this is kind of what we'll be going through in this particular season or volume. And RWBY Volume 1's intro definitely doesn't exactly nail that. It's not a bad intro. There have definitely been worse, but it's not the best possible one.
Okay.
But going back to the episode in and of itself, right? A few things I guess to make note of. We see this world's version of the cabbage salesman. I can say that, and it's not a major spoiler for future volumes. He is this world's version of the cabbage salesman. You'll see why as time goes on. I say that. And everyone's favorite, and where you're, this is your first introduction to everyone's favorite villain. You don't exactly learn, or do you? I'm not mistaken. Yes, you do learn his name in this episode, Roman Torchwick.
Okay.
Something else I guess it's worth pointing out. How quickly did you realize that RWBY was based off of Little Red Riding Hood?
From the trailer. From her trailer, I was like, yeah, that's...
Do you know who Yang is based off of?
Yang is her sister, right?
Yes. The blonde.
Yeah. Is it another fairy tale? Let me tell you.
It's all fairy tales. Most of these characters are based off of fairy tales or.
So you know, something tell me it's Rapunzel.
Nope, Goldilocks.
Oh.
She fights, and you'll see this in episode 2 when she fights 3 bears.
Yes, I remember Goldilocks having shotgun gauntlets.
Yeah, RWBY. Yeah, also, Little Red Riding Hood had a giant sniper rifle scythe.
Okay.
That means
I'm not really.
Weiss is Snow White, I'm guessing.
Yes. Okay. And Blake is Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, I didn't. That one was a little bit harder. Oh, right, from her trailer.
Yeah. Blake, I kind of got.
That probably answers a lot of questions for you.
I kind of got Beauty and the Beast from her, and but I didn't really get Snow.
Because you like to fucking read.
I swear. And Goldilocks, I'm not really aware of what the fairy tale is about. Like, I've heard of it, but don't know actually what's going on, because this didn't really make a movie out of it. So sorry. Anyway.
I don't think there's too much more to talk about other than mentioning we're introduced to a little bit of the world in episode 1, where we get a small introduction to the White Fang, the Faunus, and we learn a little bit about our main character RWBY, and the fact that she's a little bit socially awkward. But other than that, I don't think there's too much to go off of. These episodes are very short. You're not introduced to a ton in any particular episode.
No, I got more that she's socially awkward from the next episode.
They show a little bit of it in this episode, but you also see more of it, especially in the next episode too. This is correct. And rolling right along, episode 2. Your thoughts?
Yeah, let's not spend 15 minutes on this episode.
Okay, I'll just say that I liked it. I like how all the other characters were introduced, because we saw them. Technically, I saw it for this. Rush, did you see the trailers?
I didn't see RWBY's. That was the only one I didn't see.
Okay, but after seeing the trailer coming into this, so it was nice seeing all the characters interact now because like with the exception of Ruby and her sister, we didn't really see them interact in the trailers. Like each one just had her own adventure, and now we can actually see them. We actually see them meet and walk enough of each other, and Ruby explodes. Is this a is this a recurring thing? I don't care if I'll ruin something in the future. I just have to know: is this something that comes back in future volumes? Okay.
No.
So they just said, you know what, somebody at the first day of school probably felt like he or she could explode. Let's just make a quick joke with it, and hey, I'm not complaining.
Show you a little bit of world building and the fact that dust is very unstable.
Okay.
Is she allergic to dust? Is that just going to be a recurring thing, or is that just one rant? Is Ruby going to end up being allergic to dust?
No.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, no. That could change. I don't know. But as far as I'm aware, as of right now, no.
But again, and I do like Blake as a character. It's the character I like the quiet person who is there, who is friendly to you, but don't expect them to engage in much of a conversation. So that's cool. Is the white one right?
Weiss.
Yes. Yeah, I still need to get the names down. But Weiss, I didn't really like her at first because I felt like she's the stereotypical, "Ooh, I'm rich and I know better than everyone else," yada yada. But she grew on me as the volume went on, and yeah, it was a nice introduction to all of the characters, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Oh, and also John. There's also John.
Vomit Boy.
Yeah. And now John is the head who will be asked if, like the viewer.
You're not inherently wrong, I guess, by that. He's definitely. A lot of people have a lot of problems with John, in terms of many different things that are definitely. Oh, do what?
I said my biggest is his voice. Why do they always have to his voice is just so annoying.
That would be Miles Luna, one of the head writers of the show.
It's not his normal voice, so that's the thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah. You always got to go with the weird squiggly voice or something.
Something. I have something to say about his voice, but that comes later though.
At least it's not as bad as Adam in the Black trailer. If you want to talk about bad VA work,
yeah,
it's not like I'm not saying the VA work is bad.
Oh yeah,
I'm saying that the choice of the type of voice to go with his character.
Yeah, it's definitely this is something that a lot of people have done in other shows.
I know, and I hate that stereotype for me.
Just this kind of character to have this kind of voice. It's like, okay, this is very stereotypical, I guess you'd say.
Is it in this episode where it tries to hit on Weiss, I think, and he says, "Oh, actually, no, it's the next one. It's the next one. Actually,
not quite the next one, but we'll get in there."
Okay.
It's gonna be a different
one. Okay. So,
Rush,
anything else?
Your thoughts on episode 2?
Excuse me.
Anything to add?
No, I think it's good introduction to all the other characters. Even though it's a short bit, if you hadn't seen the trailers, you see Ruby's sister immediately, pretty much. And we get one of our very first anime tropes of a girl or the older sister having bigger boobs. Had to point that out. I had to point that out.
Of course you did.
Of course you did.
No.
I figured you'd go with something entirely different there, but sure. That's the one we're gonna go with first. Sure.
First, yeah. I'll probably hit something else later. I don't know.
I mean, that same episode has basically a chibi version of RWBY out of nowhere,
It
which definitely
does.
feels out of place, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
fun to see and for a fun little moment.
And then we also
That's the one you could have gone with,
don't we
but
also
no.
have the like the another 2D animation, not even just the chibi, but it's like the Rooster Teeth does Rooster Teeth animated adventures in the same style of some of the 2D animation.
Mhm.
Um, and we have that, and so
That's quite a bit later on, though, if I'm not mistaken,
right.
or a little bit later on, anyways. But yeah,
But yeah, so joking aside, um, yeah, we get a good intro to the characters. Like the trailers just gave you like sort of what they may be like, but like it was just a scene with them. It wasn't like how they interact with other characters mostly.
I feel the trailers were more so built around selling
Mm-hmm.
the idea and the animation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
because that's the point of a trailer.
True.
So
anyway, we get to see how they interact with their characters, and um we do get a little expositing through other people,
Mhm.
which sometimes I'm all right with, sometimes I'm not. We'll see that later. One of the I'm not all right with, but one of this one when Blake was saying who Weiss was, that one
Mhm.
was like I was fine with that because that at least like I had the idea like oh she's a rich girl, but I didn't realize oh she was related to the Dust Company or whatever. But
mhm.
so I really did enjoy the introductions in this. Excuse me, in this episode.
Yeah, agreed.
Fair enough. Um, I don't think there's much I can say about chapter 2 that hasn't already been said. So, moving right along into episode 3. Your
Mhm.
thoughts?
Again, nothing to really say. Like it's an
This is
the name.
technically a two-parter for episodes
Yeah,
2.
the title just said it's a part 2,
Mm-hmm.
so it does continue the previous. It does pick up where the previous one left off, and yeah, I think it's a fun continuation. Really, nothing new to add. It's just nice to see these characters develop a friendship in a sense, and
Personally, it has a great joke, probably one of the best jokes, or maybe not one of the best jokes, but definitely a good joke for this volume. I love Yang's, "Oh my god, you really exploded." It's just
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
great because Ruby's trying to tell her and she doesn't believe her at all, and then you just get and then Weiss finally comes up and she's like, "Wow, that actually happened. Okay, you have it really bad."
yeah.
But continue on.
No, I just said I don't say it's just a fun continuation, and again, it's the same as episode 2. I don't really have much to add on it, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. Again, I think it's worth remembering all of these episodes are very short, ladies and gentlemen, and so there's not a lot to talk about and unpack like you would have for comparing it to Race to the Edge, a 20-25 minute episode, sometimes
Mhm.
30-minute episode. That will change in later volumes, though. I
Oh
pro-
boy.
Oh boy,
they don't get up to 30-minute length, but you do get
on my
more 15-minute
yeah, I'm
episodes.
on the episode list and I'm scrolling down and I'm just looking at the length, not the plot or anything, and it's like 15, 13, 12, 16, 12, 13, 14, 12, 15, 12, 16, 17 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, boy.
That's still short comparatively, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But
It's just the fact that I have to start these earlier. Damn it.
it gets better though. I promise. But any thoughts you have on episode 3, Rush?
Let me go back up to the episode list. Tell you that coffee hasn't hit yet.
Yawning on a show.
Yeah, I know, right? That coffee hasn't hit.
Unprofessional.
Um, yeah, we get that. Speaking of what HC said, we get more of that social awkwardness. And how she's just trying to make more friends. You know, this is
And it's adorable.
if you really didn't believe us when we said this is a slice of life anime. Like these first two, the second and third episodes are just really, really. I guess they're trying to set up the characters, uh,
Mhm.
with a little bit of plot, but like I still have a because of what Wolf said. I'm still not quite as sure as to what the plot is. How volume 1 and 2 are slice of life, and then it changes. Okay, then great. Um, so it's still not really solidified at this point. You get a little bit of what they're trying to do in the next episode, but right now it's just, oh, let's introduce everybody.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Pretty much. It's just getting you introduced to the characters and some of their personalities and, some of their, I guess you'd say, good traits and some of their bad traits. Mostly bad to, depending on how you look at things,
Yeah.
considering Weiss is very cold. Pun intended,
Actually,
I suppose.
actually,
Weiss is cold
uh,
as ice.
I do
Hmm.
I do have some comparison to talk about because I did think about it when I first saw it, and I'm not necessarily saying this is a bad thing against the show. Again, and actually considering the fact that it's indie people, it may actually make some sense that these two episodes kind of felt like in a sense like all of those high school fan fictions of stuff you see online where
Hmm.
they'll take several short chapters at the beginning to develop the characters and show them interacting with each other and just try and make it fun at the beginning before all the drama starts. So it kind of reminded two episodes kind of reminded me of that, and again, not in a bad way, but I'm not saying this is a bad thing, just something I thought of, and maybe someone sees what I mean.
Fair enough.
So
I
next one.
guess, yeah, I guess moving on. Episode 4. Your thoughts.
Okay. Again, this is again continuing from the previous. We see the characters interact, but now there's sort of a need to it because they need to choose partners.
Hmm.
You get the idea that they need to partner up, and you're not entirely sure how this partnering up is going to work because you think, oh, can I just choose this person then? And you find out that no, the choice is kind of random because they launch them to the air, and then when they land, the first person they see is their partner. So I found that a twist in a sense because everyone will say, okay, any other show will probably do this. The teacher will go, okay, now I choose the pairs. You will be with this person, you will be with this person, and no, you actually have to launch them into the air and see what they land. Like let fate decide it. So I think it's pretty cool and funny.
Skipping ahead a little bit, we don't actually see them launched in this episode. Oh, no, we do. Never mind, you're right.
It's the
It's
that's
very near the end, yeah.
that's the next thing I want to point out that again I like how some of the episodes are short and to the point, but this episode and in this episode it started to feel like they end really really randomly. Like you just
Hmm.
saw these kids being launched into the air and then credits.
Yep.
Okay, sure. And and as I see from the air dates, this didn't air like on one go like with Netflix shows and stuff. So
No.
imagine you wait a week and then this is how the episode you watch 7.5 minutes of it and wait, what? This is how it ends? Okay, sure.
Yeah, Rooster Teeth has always released their episodes for everything they do once a week. So
Okay.
you get the
And
experience that a lot of fans didn't get, which is you get to see it all in one go.
yeah, I assume it's an advantage.
Yeah, a little bit. I promise you, having talked with people who didn't see it all in one go, because I got the chance to see it all in one go myself as well,
Mhm.
the general consensus is it's better all in one go. Even for later volumes, it's mostly better all in one go.
I'll have to agree from what I've seen.
What did you think of Nora and Ren? Ren being the guy who wears all green and is very quiet, and Nora being the very animated redhead.
Who's always with a coffee? Or am I confusing him with someone else?
Do what?
Isn't he the one that coffee mug? Or am I confusing him?
No, that would be Osmond.
That's
Ren is.
Again, I need to get used to all of these characters. It will take me some time. But I like how the woman walking like beside him is she like his assistant or something? Because
you're talking about Osmond, not Ren, but yeah, that's his assistant more or less. She is also a teacher at the school too, Miss Glenda Goodwidge.
Okay.
Wow. I wonder where that came from.
I wonder. Okay. So so far with the teacher characters,
you want to have your mind blown, Rush?
Sure.
If I'm not mistaken, if you put Osmond and Headmaster, if I'm not mistaken, it's Osmond and I think Headmaster is the word together. It is the Wizard of Oz. Like it actually, you can actually, it all comes out to the Wizard of Oz. If I'm not mistaken, it's Osmond and the word Headmaster together.
I can say that. Okay. So one thing on teacher characters before we move on with the episode is that I like them fine, for the one episode each one shows up pretty much, but I don't really remember them by name or by characteristics yet. This could change as we move on with the show.
Okay.
Anyway, I talked enough. You guys go.
Any thoughts, Rush?
We are on. Did
episode
we move
4.
to episode? Okay, no, okay, because we kind of went off topic there. But yes, we get. So this is where I was kind of alluding to in the non-spoiler section of how we're getting characters through actions and not really words. Sure, Rena was very animated and talking a lot, but you could see that she was really not fanning, but she was really dedicated to. Is his name Ren?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And while she was talking about him, you didn't even need the words that were coming out of her mouth. Not that she was annoying or anything, which you could. I mean, that was her character to be. And honestly, she wasn't she wasn't even
She's
the most
very
annoying.
active.
Yeah,
She's very active.
And it wasn't even that bad, if I'm being honest, to me. So you saw that she was like extremely dedicated, and then Ren, who didn't even talk at all. You saw their dynamic, and so it worked. That's what I was kind of getting at earlier, by the way. So.
Well, I mean, talking about that too. Like in this same episode, you get Weiss asking Pyrrha for help because Jean won't quit hitting on her, right? And her version of help is, I'm just going to throw my spear at you and stick you into the wall of one of the lockers, right? Like, that pretty much through an action tells you she's probably not great at social interaction either, because definitely was a bit over the top in the approach.
I kind of predicted that Pyrrha would have a crush on John or something like that, based off how she was in the background of a previous episode.
Yes,
smiling
this is the moment. This is the moment I want to talk about. That says something about a girl, and then as he walks off screen, she's the only one with color and actual texture and everything. So it's like, okay, these two are going to
telegraph
hit it
that
off.
one very clearly. I will admit,
Yeah.
like there's no denying what that's supposed to imply there.
Yeah.
Not subtle at all.
Nope.
Compared to other stuff. But we'll get to it.
Actually, if we kind of like Jean and Pyrrha, this is something that I don't know if I'm the only one who thought about it, so I'll just bring this up. So we have a confident redhead who does most of the job, and she's paired with a blonde guy who is a loser and has some sort of a nasally annoying voice.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say anything, but I'll ask the writer, what's the sitch? That's my hint to what this reminded me.
I hate you, but I respect you for making that connection.
Is there a reason though, because you don't like the show in particular, or
No, because it was actually really good. It was so good that I wanted to think of that.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Don't get used to it.
No, I'm not used to it. That's why I'm bringing mention to it. It's rare on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. I guess episode 5, it is a two-parter. We can kind of go in. HC definitely talked about it a little bit.
Let's actually can we just do it based off
sure.
the same as the Race to the Edge rules, where we talk it about as one conglomerate episode, because like HC said, how in the episode 3 how they just cut it off at the end. I mean,
Fair.
Yeah.
I might get confused at this point, since I kind of, even though I just watched it, I haven't rewatched it like I usually do with Race to the Edge. So the two-parters, I might get mixed up with what happens in the first and second part.
All right, that's fair. Because there is,
Okay.
it's very much is a continuation. It's like, basically just look at it as one full episode, because that's essentially what it is, even though it's
Okay.
split into parts.
I will also say RWBY and been paired together. I called that. It was pretty damn obvious that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I did like how when Weiss immediately sees her, she walks away and then finds John and then just goes straight back to RWBY.
Yeah.
And and also it's really fun to hear just Ruby go, "Yay, you came back!"
Yeah, exactly. As she's driving
Yeah.
her off.
No. They don't actually fight in all the creatures until the next episode, right?
It's in this,
Both.
which
It's
would be
in
episode
both.
5. It's in this two-parter, I guess you would say. And I guess this is
Yeah.
your first look, and that's something I was actually going to bring up, right? Is you saw what the Grim, that's what they're called, looked like in the Red trailer. What did you think about essentially the new design compared to the Red trailer?
I'll admit, maybe it's because I took a break before getting to this episode. Like, I think I took a break after episode 4 for a second to do something. So I completely forgot. I didn't even know these were supposed to be the same creatures, but maybe it's me forgetting. So
there is very much a lot of differences between them, so it's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But this is our first look at the Grim. This one in particular that you see in this episode is called the Beowulf, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What did you think of its design?
It was a fun, cool design, I guess. I don't really have much to say about it because again, keep in mind I saw this a few hours ago, so I don't necessarily remember everything to a T here.
Okay,
but
fair.
But I will say that the designs are, in terms of color schemes, are pretty cool.
Okay. Well, I guess moving on to, do we have any other thoughts on episode 5?
Nope.
Moving on to episode 6,
And
the Emerald
7.
Forest.
And episode 7 is
The
Another
part 2.
two-parter. There are
Yes.
a lot of two-parters.
There are.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I will. Episode 4, 5, 6, and 7 are a four-parter.
Pretty
If-
much.
But
At least a three-parter with
Yeah.
5, 6, and 7, because they're in the forest for 3 episodes.
Yeah. or maybe
Actually, 8. No,
be-
episode 8 as well.
yeah, episode 8 as well. I'm going over but 8 is the big. But we'll get to 8. So the Emerald Forest.
This is our
Yeah,
first introduction to Aura,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big thing. What were your thoughts on this? As up until this point, you probably had no idea how people were taking the hits they were taking and not getting hurt at all, I'm sure. So what did you think?
Like, I appreciate the explanation, and actually, let me ask you this with not much spoilers: is this something that's been explored more as the show goes on?
To a degree, yeah. It still
Okay.
very much stayed in the background. There's still a lot we don't know, but we have gotten a better look at it. And I will say the show's done better at showing you when someone's aura is down.
Okay. Fair enough. Because I got the explanation. I said, oh, okay, so that explains how they take several hits and everything. But at the end of the day, I just said, okay, it's an explanation to how they can take deadly blows, and that's all there is to it.
It's something that, I'll say, like, as someone who is a fan of world building, the first volume isn't the greatest at doing it. There's some stuff it does fairly decently well, and there's other stuff that I feel it drops the ball on quite heavily. And the idea of aura is, and something else we'll get to a little bit later that you learn about, is one of those things where you probably should be learning about it much sooner than what you do. But I understand why they introduced it the way they introduced it, because it does work,
honestly,
and fairly well.
I could have done without it, because like the second that you have a girl with a giant retractable scythe, and then the witch at the Glenda Goodwitch at the very beginning do this, I don't need an explanation for it. There doesn't always have to be some random magical force behind it. I just accept the fact that, okay, there's magic in this world and people have like abilities of some sort. I don't usually care what's behind it. I just accept it. And so it wasn't really annoying to me, but I was just like, it's like, okay, so there's this aura thing, whatever, right? It's not something that's like, oh wow, so that's why they do it. It's like, oh, okay. And so I really don't even, I wouldn't care if they use it again, but
well, I mean, they're always using it, Rush.
I can stop this recording right now.
Don't.
I got stuff to do today, and I can move it up as early as I need to.
I will say that RWBY and getting into an argument about differences and how, like, I get it, it's a trope, but at the same time, it just felt like we need this trope because it's a trope, and there was no real for it. You know what I mean?
It is important to Weiss's character and the fact that she does.
Yeah, but there's another episode better later on.
This is true. Like this is very much the beginning of it. This is very much to give you kind of an idea of why these two characters are at odds and ends and why Weiss acts the way she does. But I will agree, an episode later on in this very volume, I think, does it way better than this does. I will agree.
Okay, so and basically the rest of the episode is just all coming across, the relics and all the monsters that they need to beat, and then the next episode comes. So, anything else to wrap the?
Hello.
Interesting, very interesting points here.
Your mic cut out there, so I didn't know what you were saying.
I asked if anything else to say about the Emerald Forest, because it's basically about part to the next one, to episode 8.
Yeah, no, I guess, okay, so yeah, I just have to say that if you didn't watch the trailers, this is a good introduction to what the type of monsters they would be fighting, which are called Grims, I believe. And Wolf, if you're trying to talk or you're just being silent, I don't know. Your mic has stopped working, is what I'm guessing. So, that or you're just being silent. Yep, there he goes. He leaves and he comes back. Still not working. All right. Okay. We'll just keep talking. We'll move along without you. I'll just keep talking.
We'll move along.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as technical difficulties here, but we'll move it along
Yeah.
just to.
Anyway, um,
So episode 8, Players and Pieces.
there you go, Wolf. You're
Oh,
back.
okay, he's back.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay,
Oh
we're
God!
good.
Wait, hold on. Windows
Uh,
did the thing again with your mic.
Oh boy.
Super loud.
Ladies and
Oh
gentlemen,
man.
Wolf Android for the first time on the Outcast.
What? I've been on the Outcast before.
I said Wolf Android.
Wolf
What does this have to
Android.
do
Okay,
with
how
this?
do I
It
sound
sound
now?
You sound better. It sounded like you said
All
Wolf
right.
and Rush instead of Wolf Android.
No. Okay, so I. Oops.
Fixed. Technical difficulties averted.
Yeah.
Wonderful time to have them in the middle of the show.
Yeah, and so Players and Pieces, episode 8. Basically, one big fight scene, and
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
It's pretty much the end of them being in the forest. It's the end of this whole section
It's
of the story we were
basically
talking about.
the end to their initiation into school. At this point, after this point, they are in school.
Right.
Yeah.
Up until this point, we weren't actually in school, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we won a school, but this was a good episode again to see what everyone's abilities are and how all of them can work together, and even though the animation is perfect in this show by any means, I think they managed to work with what they to give us a pretty cool fight scene, which is most of this is one of the longer. So I'll give props here, and then at the end of it all, do get them being assigned to their teams, and yeah, I do question how they choose who's the leader, because it's pretty much just let's see, I'll pick you and you'll be the like. I didn't feel like the leader choice was, and they do in this volume, but it just, I think that we were supposed to see something in RWBY in that fight that was, and we do with her, but with the Yarn, for example, or the other leaders, I didn't really get, okay, I can see how these guys will be leaders. RWBY is the only one, which
For
makes
Jean,
sense.
it's very quick. I think it's supposed to be like you're supposed to see him very quickly point out, oh, he notices the Grim Scorpion, or in this case, the Deathstalker's tail is loose. Okay, focus that, and that's how we'll beat it. That's what you're supposed to pay attention to, that very quick, brief moment.
Yeah, but like
For
you
RWBY,
said,
it's much more expanded.
It's a quick and brief moment.
Well, see,
so
that's why Oz is the headmaster and you're not AC. He notices things that you don't.
Well, true. I won't argue that.
Although there is definitely a joke.
But you need to remember that he's written to be like that. So
yeah, and
if an action
be like that.
There's
wait. Somebody writes us?
No, they write you.
Where am I?
There's also a joke that goes around that Osmond has no clue what he's doing, and he's just guessing at everything he does as he goes along. So, very fun to assume that's the case too.
Actually, it reminds me of a moment in the Nickelodeon CG Ninja Turtles in the first episode. They actually go into why the leader, like that Splinter made, that Splinter says, you know what, if you're going to fight as a unit, you're going to need a leader, and he chooses Leonardo. And at the end of the episode, the reason I chose you is because you asked, and Leonardo is like, you asked, I asked, so you could have chosen any of us, even Michelangelo, and he says, oh no, that would be just wrong.
Oh man.
So it kind of reminds me.
There's also later, like to quote that he says later, which we'll get to that eventually. I guess it'll be in the next two-parter, so it'll be stuck in the mind. One quick thing is we got introduced to Team Cardinal, And the fact that they were included in that ceremony, like I knew they were gonna play a bigger part later. I'm like, why would you?
It's not exactly the biggest of parts. It's definitely a lot smaller.
Well, yeah,
But yeah,
but
they do play a part later. Like you
how about
immediately
this?
know, like okay, something's going to be done with them as
Yes,
characters.
that's what I mean. There's a oh gosh, there's like a writing principle. Um, it's called some ironic or weirdly enough, it's called somebody's gun. It's like something some
Chekhov's gun.
yes,
Chekhov's
Chekhov's
gun.
gun. Basically, yeah, don't write this into a story if you're not going to use it later. Although it's
Mhm.
usually they say immediately, which is pretty stupid. But
It's like it's kind of a something that's shown in the first act and comes into play in the third one.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Basically, if you show a gun at the beginning of the first act, it has to go off by the third or fourth act.
yeah,
If not, then why did you focus on? Why did you pay attention to the gun? Why did you mention it?
mm-hmm. And so yeah, like why would they include this team Cardinal, especially if they focused on the names and the people themselves, sort of. Like I would just
Mhm.
assume it's like you will be Team Cardinal. It's like and now next up, and it's like that. Maybe then you could just say okay, there's another team out there. But the fact that you focused on their individual names,
I mean,
like,
it helps, right? Like
mm-hmm,
you're introduced to Cardinal earlier as well, but you're never given a name. You just see him, or
mm-hmm,
not Cardinal, but Carden specifically. Like you just see him on one of the launch platforms and getting launched off. You see one of his friends as that one of the other people on his team as well. I think it's Russell is his name. You see both of them on the launch platforms, but you're never given a name or anything about them. You just see them as two characters who also get launched,
mm-hmm.
right? And it helps that every other character who isn't important doesn't actually have any kind of texture. They're just a shadow person in this, eerily bleak shadow realm, apparently. So it helps, right, in determining, okay, those two characters are going to be important at some point because they're the ones, because they're not shadow people, essentially.
Yeah.
So it does help a little bit in figuring out, okay, someone's going to be important there because, again, not the aforementioned shadow people.
Mhm. Okay,
But um I don't think there's too much more to say here. You get to see more of the Grim. You get to see the Flying Grim, which is called the Nevermore, and as I already said, the Death Stalker. And it's always, I think the show does really well at designing the Grim. I think it's really cool to see what new Grim they come up with. Very similar to why it's fun to see what new dragons DreamWorks would come up with the show. Seeing the new dragons there. It's very interesting, and it's still very interesting here.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
agreed.
With that said, I guess we can move on to episode 9.
And 10, because another
And
two,
10.
the badge of
The Badge and the Burden.
So I think this did well to Wes's character with me, like in terms of a relationship with Ruby, and yeah, I can actually get why she doesn't necessarily count on her being a leader, and
At first,
but
yeah.
at first, and then part two is actually pretty great, and you can see that Ruby is not just a goof up. She does bring up the fact that she knows where that creature's weakness is. And yeah, you could argue that Whis knew that going into the fight, but the fact that that's how she beats it kind of shows me that there is a teamwork between those two. And at the end of the day, yeah, it was a fun two-parter. I think I like the character that they had.
What did you think of our introduction to another professor, Professor Port?
I like him. I like his mustache.
And how did I know you would mention that?
Well, because I like mustaches.
I had it written down in my notes. HC might mention the mustache, and I knew.
Actually, something.
I knew.
There is another thing that I like about him, that Wiz kind of comes to him after the class, and she calls him. When she does that, he's like, "Do you doubt me? Do you dare to say something against me?" And it's like, shit.
I also like how he calls her out. It's like, you always get what you want. She's like, that's not true. Well, that might not be true. And she just slowly accepts, like, yeah, I actually do.
It's very important that how they stop on things, right, in this show. And getting to go back, like, again, as I said earlier, you definitely see, like, okay, I see why you have some of the lines that you have, because it is important to these characters. And it's something I would say pay attention to. Like, when she says it's not entirely true, she's telling the truth. It's not entirely true. She doesn't always get what she wants, but she has gotten most of what she's wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, right, one of the interesting. Did you notice Blake's book collection?
Yeah.
Specifically, one book.
Yeah, as
the one that she was embarrassed about.
Yes.
Yeah, as I pointed out.
That's
so
a joke
was...
that I know we're not doing a review of it, but it is RWBY Chibi is something that is an offspin of RWBY, and it's basically nothing serious, not canon to the main story, and it's basically nothing but jokes, and it's something that they bring up a lot in that show is Blake's book collection.
Oh.
Which is always fun.
Okay.
Another show that I do recommend if you're looking for something that's very non-serious and just looking for a few quick laughs.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love Ozpin in this episode.
And that's
what he tells RWBY. And I know you wanted to talk about this.
Well, I was just saying, like, that's what I was getting at earlier, was just this quote about how he's it was
made
kind
more
of
mistakes than any man, woman, or child on this earth combined.
And then he goes on to say, but you were not, me making you leader was not a mistake. I'm like, of course he was going to say that after he said he had them. It's like, come on, too cliche there, man.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say about it.
But it ended up giving us a nice little Weiss and RWBY moment, which was good to see.
Mm-hmm.
As a coffee person, The Rush, I'm curious, how do you feel about RWBY and how she takes her coffee?
Dear God, she's gonna have diabetes. 1 cream and 5 sugars? That's a lot. I take it black. I don't put anything in it.
Oh, God.
Oh.
You're even worse.
You're living very dangerous.
Why? Why? I don't want... I could... Okay, fine. I
can't drink straight coffee. I can't. It has to have something.
I can go the health nut route and say, well, you don't need artificial stuff. But that's not true. I just like it. Straight up. I'll be honest. I mean, I will, if, like, something's added to it by somebody else, like, say, you know, they don't ask me how I take my coffee and they put something in it, like, I'll drink it. I just don't like it when it's too sweet, if I'm not expecting it. So, you know, I've put creamer in it before. I've put Irish cream in it before because I was dealing with some bad teammates on a project, if I'm being honest. But it's just sometimes...
The best kind of coffee.
Yeah, it's either... For me, it's like a delicate balance. If I want it sweet, I'd get something sweet instead of coffee. But if I don't, I'll just go straight coffee because I can taste, like, the difference between the sweet and the bitter. And if it's not enough sweet, it's just a bad taste to me. But I'd rather have it just plain bitter than a weird mix.
Fair.
So
getting off of our tangent on coffee.
And that was
I
coffee
could go
time.
all day on coffee. Rift and I will have a coffee outcast.
You go ahead and meanwhile, next two-parter.
Jaundice, episodes 11 and 12.
I just because I kind of woke up from a nap before watching this episode, but for some reason I first read it as genocide, and I'm like, what the fuck?
And probably not the greatest way to read that, considering we learn a lot about the faunus in this episode, HC.
Yeah,
and
but
what they have to deal with and go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again,
So
this was kind of a mistake that was made out of being tired, and I'm sorry about it. But anyway, let's talk about this.
this is the Jean getting bullied arc.
Yeah, and Jean is self-confidence and everything. In a
Personally,
sense,
I would say this arc and some of the episodes that come after it isn't necessarily my favorite because they introduced again some world building here where the Faunus are still mistreated, and we learn about there was a war fought over this very issue, and we learn why the White Fang was originally established because of this issue. And unfortunately, I feel this really good amount of world building takes backseat to Jean getting bullied, which is very much, you see this in a lot of animes, you see this in a lot of shows. One of your main characters has to have the bully arc in the school. You know, you have to
the
have your
bully and
bully
the
in the school.
dark secret that can't get out and everything.
Yeah, and I get why they do this, and it definitely helps Jean as a character, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. I just personally think it would have been able, they could have made it more interesting if they would have tied it more to the Faunus as well. Like, at the very least, have Jean help Velvet, and that helps him gain that confidence boost, right? Instead of how they ended up going. It works, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it, and I think it does work for this show, but I am personally a little bit let down when watching this because of the fact that the fondness and the discrimination and the racism does take very much a back seat more often than it should, in my opinion. You
Well,
don't see a lot
maybe
of
because I haven't
examples
maybe because I
of it
haven't
happening.
seen the show the rest of the seasons like you have. Again,
Mhm.
you have more knowledge than we do. But in my case, because I didn't finish the last episode, it just takes a. I think that's foreshadowing to the second to last episode,
Fair.
at least from a initial standpoint. That actually may
No,
have been
it definitely is, right?
it
Like it definitely.
from a developmental standpoint, like on how they're developing the story, that actually just may have been what it is, and that's why it does take a backseat. Like they didn't, they may not have it. They may have intended it as world building, yes, but they used it more as foreshadowing, and then they
Yeah.
just kind of don't. It's not maybe that they don't remember it, but they just don't think it's a primary uh, point
And,
in the story.
I mean, you have to ask the question, right? Like, is that a good thing, though? Is, like you tie everything about the faunus to this one character and her development, but you neglect the idea that there are more faunus than just her or these particular two faunus that we see and what they're going through. There's more to it than that. And
Mm-hmm.
they consistently show the faunus, but whenever the show does show the faunus, you do see more often than not that the faunus aren't exactly great people more often than not. Like when you see the faunus, you see more faunus who are criminals than you see of faunus who aren't, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
And is that a good thing? Is that the show doing justice to something that they want to have and that they want to have within this world, but they never really give it any major development, right? And so should it take backseat to Jean getting bullied, essentially? And I think this is definitely something we can come back to as you see later volumes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not a lot I can say here without spoiling things for later volumes, other than to
Um,
say,
one thing I want to ask,
oh, go ahead.
like you summed up the entire thing pretty greatly, but I
Not
just
really.
better than I could. So I will ask this: is this the episode where Jan and Ruby have that little talk near the rooms? Oh,
It's within this two part. Well,
uh,
no, this is a
uh,
little bit later.
hmm. Okay,
That would
because I
be
just
that would be the Forever Fall two parter.
okay. So I'll talk about it when we go to Forever then. Unless
This
you
is
have.
just This two-parter is just Jean getting bullied. We find out that Carvin's a bit of a jerk, and we learn a little bit about the Faunus and their backstory and history, and the White
Mhm.
Fang, and the fact that there was a war apparently fought against the Faunus because they were being discriminated against and everything.
Okay.
And we get a bit more of Pyrrha trying to help Jean, and Jean, disregarding that help and wanting to go it alone and not being able to. And this is where you learn that Jean faked his transcripts to get into the school. That would
That's
be
what I
his
talked
two-parter.
about. That's what I talked about with dark secrets that can get out
Mhm.
and everything.
So I guess moving on to the next
Forever
two-parter,
Fall.
Forever Fall,
Forever Fall.
chapter
Part 1 and 2.
episode 13 and 14.
Mhm. And so I'll just be an Jean had. I like how every question he asks her, she just replies with no, and
Mhm.
then he asks her like, if she can say anything, if that's all she is saying, and she says no. I don't know. It was a cute conversation. I like that.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, it's definitely a good moment.
Mhm. And of course, in continuing the bully arc, Jean stands up to the bully, and at the end of the day, he makes amends with his friend, then they appreciate him back and everything, and typical stuff. But I found this enjoyable. I wasn't cringing or rolling my thing while watching this.
We should say this is the first time you actually learn about semblances within this world too. What did you think about that?
Um, remind me
This is
of
where the moment where you see Jean fighting the Ursa. You
okay.
have Pyrrha use her semblance, which is polarity, to make sure his sword hits where it needs to hit to be able to kill the Ursa.
Oh, okay. I know what
And
you're
she
talking about.
offhandedly mentions in that moment as well that Ruby's semblance is speed and Weiss's semblance is the glyphs that you've seen. Up until this
Yeah.
point, did you know that Ruby was super fast?
I got
I
that
noticed it.
impression. I got
Mm-hmm.
the impression, but at the start, they that because it's animation, you can do a lot of stuff as jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume that's what it was. If they actually expand it, it's an actual ability she has. Yeah, sure, fine, why not? Let her be super fast.
I noticed she
The
was
reference that they
fast.
use to it is for the rose petals that you'll see that Ruby leaves behind. That's supposedly her using her semblance at that point, right?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I will say again, it comes back to I don't think this show, and it definitely I have to give it some leniency because it definitely comes down to time. But the world building, it definitely doesn't do the best at times because something like this maybe should have been mentioned earlier. But at the very least, they do try to say, hey, look at the scene. Look at kind of like, hey, we're doing the whole speed line thing when she's running. That might mean something to say that she's running really fast and that other characters can't do this. And you see
Hmm.
Weiss's glyphs are a very telltale sign, right?
Hmm.
So it's very much it's not maybe not the best way and maybe definitely should have been done sooner in my opinion, but at the same time they definitely do try to give you an idea of something more is going on and hopefully you can figure it out. But go ahead, Rush.
No, I was gonna say I was a little bit with HC on how like I thought that was just the point, but then I realized that she was faster than a lot of the other characters. So I'm like, I didn't think anything of the this is like a special ability. I thought she's just fast.
Hmm.
I didn't realize it was actual special ability, but it did bring up a good point. Like well, why can Weiss and then the huntress Glinda also do just glyphs. Like, why can't anybody else do them? Yada yada yada. But okay, I got it. After that, I'm like, oh okay. It's like so. Not only do they have aura, but they also have special powers. What else is
Hmm.
new? This is
As I said, magical girl anime,
yes,
as people will
magical
get
high
angry at me
school
for doing that.
drama girl anime.
Eh, it works. People will get angry at us for saying it, but it works.
Yeah.
But we
Pretty
had,
much.
at the end of this, we get a, very cute Piero and Jean moment again,
A-
which is
Actually,
nice to see.
Wolf, that's actually to ask. Are they official in the future seasons?
You'll have
Sure.
to find out. I don't know.
They most certainly are official at one point.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
They genuinely they do make it official at one point. So yeah, they're official.
I have a bad feeling about that. Just the way you said that with your sure.
Like,
It's nothing terrible.
I thought just being sarcastic, and it's like, sure, you think I'll tell you now? No, I won't ruin it, but
I mean, I'm not going to.
okay. Because kind of a bit behind the scenes talk. Wolf did talk about tell us about about certain ships, and I want and not necessarily the ships, what ships are popular or canon or not, but based on that, I started looking for ships while watching the episodes, and that's the only one I. And that's
the only one you found was Arcos, and that's the ship name that the fandom gave it.
Really?
That's the only one you found.
Like what? Yeah, that's their ship name.
Rena and
yes, that's the ship name.
Rena and
Ren. The ship name is Arcos. Really? Do what now?
The Rena and Ren one?
No, the.
No. I'm saying that's another one. That isn't that one that you should have.
It's Nora, not Rena.
Nora, sorry, Nora and Ren.
Yeah, Nora and Ren. That is another ship as well. That one I don't remember the name of.
Nora.
Okay, I was talking about Pira specifically, because I kind of in the sense of okay, let's see what people can actually say. I ship this, just for the hell, and that's the only one I actually. Okay, I can actually see that being canonical. So I was just curious.
The one for Nora and Ren, if I'm not mistaken, is Renora.
Renora?
Yeah. These are this is what you're used to. You come from How to Train Your Dragon, Higstrid. It's like, oh, well, they just combine the names. Some of the other ship names are, in my opinion, a lot more creative, and I do have to give the RWBY fandom credit. Although I suggest to you, as someone who has paid attention, has been around the fandom a little bit longer than you have, and knows a lot more of these ships, I do suggest you be careful sailing through these waters. They're not exactly the friendliest of waters.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm going to ship something. I'm just saying. I'm trying to look. I'm trying to see what.
Not fair.
It's not like, I'm seeing these two characters together. Okay, ship it. No, that's not it. I don't really care about shipping. That's not canonical and stuff. Honestly,
I'm proud. You've really taken after me, and not caring about shipping at all. But yeah, there is a lot of shipping that goes on within this fandom.
I'm a romantic to the heart, so fuck you guys.
Anyway,
I'm sure you can guess, right? Which characters have probably been shipped together. Take RWBY, Blake, Weiss, and Yang. Which of those characters do you think have been shipped together?
Well, RWBY and
Weiss.
RWBY and Weiss.
White Rose.
I do want to say that, sadly, probably something because people like doing that for whatever reason. I could never get
RWBY and who is something?
Yang.
It is. I hope it's a joke. I really do. I don't think it is, but I think it has a ship name as well. I don't remember what it is.
I'm guessing that there has been every combination of the four of them.
Oh, there has.
There you go.
There's Weiss and Blake, which is monochrome. There's RWBY and Blake, which is Ladybug. There's Blake and Yang, which is Bumblebee.
Ladybug, really?
Yeah. Ladybug. Blake's black, RWBY's red.
You're right. They are pretty creative.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm saying, I genuinely do have to give the people who come up with these names credit. They're really creative.
I have a bad pun. Can I say it?
Oh, God.
Rush maybe.
Yang would be
I'll
proud.
say it.
Barbara Dunkelman would be proud.
Barbara
I'm sure.
Punkelman.
Like Rush will. I think Rush likes this show, so he may be very angry if I'll say it. But I'll let him think about it. Let's see if he'll get it.
What? Go for your pun. Do it. Kill me now.
No. Which show do you think his pun relates to already?
I guess that is Miraculous.
Miraculous Ladybug, yeah.
That's it. Bad pun has been told. Let's sting.
That was really bad. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of, in my opinion, really good and creative ship names within the show. Just ignoring that, moving on. There is a lot of really good creative ship names, even if from someone who doesn't really care about shipping all that much at all. Even from someone who doesn't really care about shipping, I do have to give credit to the people who've come up with these names. They are really creative in terms of how they went about doing it.
Yep.
So credit to them. You did good.
So next one, Stray.
Yeah, next episode, The Stray, episode 15.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the episode get the entire quote-unquote racism thing with the, with what's it called?
Faunus.
The Faunus and the White Fang.
Yeah. I think that's the episode getting that racism feeling, if you know what I mean.
You definitely it's the discrimination, right? The discrimination from Weiss, where she sees pretty much all Faunus as, villains or criminals, right?
Exactly.
This is where you get it from. I think it's not helped all that much when we see one Faunus that we're introduced to as a new character who's being a criminal, and then we hear Blake was also a member of the White Fang. A question to you two, though. When did you realize Blake was a Faunus? Was it this episode, or did you think of anything sooner? Did something stand out to you sooner?
Her bow always looked like... I always thought it was, ears on her. I didn't even realize until they brought up the Faunus. It's like, wait a second. Does she have... wait.
I didn't really figure this out until this episode, but I assume she's hiding something because they kind of, in a sense, contradict her character because we are introduced to her being this quiet and the loner and everything, but then when it comes to the fun, let's organize our room and let's do random nonsense, she's pretty much in it.
I think that's her trying to be a part of the group, right?
And exactly. So, but I think that the reason she was so such a loner is because she just felt like if she'll talk too much and accidentally reveal it, she won't get along with it. But once she found a group, she felt more comfortable. So that's how I saw it personally.
Well, I mean, at that point in time, right? She's very much alone, and she very much probably feels alone because she just left what she, and she, says that she was in the White Fang since the beginning, right? She pretty much was born into the White Fang. And with that said, she just left all of that, left it all behind for her own reasons, which we will find out later on in the other volumes. But she leaves it all behind, and she comes here. So it's kind of understandable that she's very much secluded and off on her own and not really partaking in anything else because she has nothing to really offer at that point, because all she's known is just this one thing, and now she's basically thrust herself into this situation where she's completely out there with nothing essentially. So it makes sense from a character point that she would very much so just kind of jump in and try and be a part of the group very quickly as far as Yang and RWBY were concerned, and as far as her team was concerned, right? It makes a lot of sense that she would very quickly jump into that and very quickly try to get along with them and make friends to some level. Even if she doesn't tell them everything about herself right away, she wants to jump in and just be a part of the group so she can hopefully, I guess you'd say, blend in even better and not be asked any really hard questions.
Yeah.
And this is why when you see, I mean, it's still, the White Fang is still something she feels very strongly about, and she's still very, and you can see the conviction that she has, where she is torn about the White Fang to some degree and what it is that they're doing, and that's why she left, right? And you can see this when Weiss starts talking ill of the Faunus. She starts drawing back on, this is why I did this. This is why people are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's definitely a good thing that you get here, and it definitely shows you more of at least why this one character views things the way she does. I would still personally like to see more of this going on within the world to get a better understanding of just how prevalent it might be and why the White Fang are as important as they are. But I do think, as far as first volumes go, this is definitely a good start at the very least.
Mm-hmm. I
Mm-hmm.
will also say before to connect this episode to the season finale, Penny is the most random thing in the world, and in a lot of sense, and like in a lot of sense, she just feels so random, and I love it.
Yeah, fair enough. You'll learn more about her as time goes on.
Yeah, as I kind of hinted,
I'm
but
curious to see what you have to think in the future.
oh boy.
Oh,
Is it going to be Hayoa? Is she going to be the main?
No, no,
Okay.
I will spoil that. No, she's not the main villain. You've already seen one of our main villains.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That being Roman Torchwick, a wonderful
So
villain.
yeah, so I did like.
But I do agree, Penny is wonderful.
Mhm. Like I like how she's so. I don't know. Sudden when they start fighting, they they start fighting. Are those the White Fangs they find in the end? I don't really remember.
Are you talking about episode 16, the people
Yeah.
in the masks? Yes, that
Mhm.
is the White Fang. That basically, when you see that mask, that means that's a White Fang member. They are Faunus.
Gotcha. So when Penny starts all of a sudden finding them, and she has all of those homing things, and she throws them around, and nobody's even touching her. That's fantastic. That's just brilliant. I love this so much.
What did you think about learning about Weiss's past and her childhood growing up?
Um,
Going
you
back a
know,
little bit.
I did want to interesting background and seeing how I like. Uh, oh wait, you said Weiss. Sorry,
Yes, Weiss.
I was talking about
Not quite Blake.
yeah, I thought about Blake for a second, but I will say Blake's backstory, considering the fact that I like the character itself when she was introduced. So getting to learn interesting. Weiss's backstory now. It was, it's pretty traditional. Like nothing necessarily surprised me or stuck out to me, but it does the job. It does the job.
Okay, fair enough. Rush.
I'm sorry, my dog came in and I was petting him. You
Fair.
guys are going on for
Dog
quite a
petting
long
dogs
time.
more important than Outcast. Fair.
Yeah. Also, he got himself hurt from just being a
Oh,
dog and running and stuff, so he's quite pitiful right now. He's fine, but it's like a pulled muscle almost.
We'll pity him.
Mm-hmm. He already gets enough of
mhm.
that. So sorry, we're on the stray still. It's been a while
Yes,
since
episodes
it feels
15
like
and
it's been
16, or episode 15. Yeah.
15, not hopefully not 16, because that's the one that I actually did not watch.
Okay.
But so for 15, the stray, I was interested when they met Penny first. I was like, well, just another random person out of nowhere, but it turns out no, not a random person out of nowhere. And then this is where we get the reveal. Oh, so Blake is a faunus, and those that bow wasn't as conspicuous as I thought. Um, excuse me, but it was kind of weird to see that, because now you also get into the anime where they have animal parts on them.
Well, they've already shown this before, though.
I
Way
know.
back in episode 1 with the TV broadcast, you see a couple of different faunas with animal parts.
Oh yeah, I don't. I actually completely forgot about that.
It's
It
easy
was
to
just
miss.
yeah, it was just, and then I mean I
It's
know
a
what they
very
were
quick
talking
thing.
about the faunus, but then just to get the actual interaction between them, and then like you said with Weiss, how she, it's like that awkward moment, right? It's like, oh, they all suck, and then it's like, ooh, well, not you. You're great.
Hmm.
uh, I was kind of, I was laughing just at that. Like, it's like, of course, she makes the comment, and then there's Blake being one. So that's all I can really say about it.
Fair. I know HC enjoyed this, so I'm going to mention it because he literally shared this GIF with me because he went out of his way to find it. Ruby and Weiss's high five.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's like this has to be a somewhere. I don't know if some. I look it up. I just wrote Ruby High and found it a second later.
The
It
thing
is a
was,
nice little
you,
moment.
you send it in the PMs. Like, why didn't you just put it in the links or something?
because
Because Mike cut out. Great.
Hmm.
I did it. That's the only reason.
Well, that has been all of the episodes, correct?
Mm, episode 16 still.
I thought you guys went over it because you kind of said like, I thought you said it was like a two-parter
We did a
sort
little
of,
bit,
but
right?
so.
It's not. I guess you can look at it as a two-parter. It's technically not, but I guess you can look at it in this way. I guess the one thing we need to point out, right, is one, Penny continues to be wonderful, and we definitely already talked about dealing with discrimination in the Faunus and the White Fang as much as we can for Volume 1 and how they go over it. One thing definitely worth pointing out: we finally get to see the woman who, as of right now, you've only seen a silhouette of her being lit up when she's using dust, but you do get to see a full like model for her now. I know as of right now you two don't know her name, but I think it's fine if I can say it here. Her name is Cinder.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
she is the villain behind Roman. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah.
The one who wears
Okay.
all red. Her name is Cinder. We see her at the very end of episode 16, and she definitely, as I'm sure you could already guess, she'll definitely start playing a bigger role later on as time goes by. But for me, someone pointed this out to me, and now I can't, and I have to point it out here on the show. If you didn't, did you notice the two people standing on either side of her at the very end of episode 16?
Mhm.
So,
Wait, you say?
did you notice the two people standing on either side of Cinder at the end of episode 16?
Not really. Honestly, I didn't even know post credits until just now.
Oh,
So
you missed out.
Awkward.
I do
okay,
recommend going back and watching it
I'll go back
because
now. I'll go
this is
back
for
now.
RWBY fans. To me, someone pointed this out to me where these two characters very much look like cardboard cutouts to them. And to me, my mind immediately went to, I had to go back and watch it. And the way they slide forward, the way they look, they definitely look like cardboard cutouts almost. And to me, my mind immediately jumps to, okay, so she's just a crazy woman carried around cardboard cutouts who she pretends are friends. That's why she's the villain. I love this. That was just a fun moment that someone had pointed out to me that that's where my mind immediately went to, and I do enjoy that. So have to bring it up here because why not?
Okay, cool.
But
So I
yeah,
pretty much said everything I have to say.
final episode ends with a really great fight scene. Should mention that, like, it's definitely, there's a lot of build up to that, and it definitely, I think, is, as far as ending of seasons go, I think this one is really good.
Okay.
Um, I guess at the end of it all, should definitely give props to the animators behind the show. They did a lot of work, right, in terms of taking this and making it look as good as it does, even for the time and looking back at it. it still doesn't look terrible, right? Like there's still a lot of good animation that goes on here, a lot of janky animation, but it's definitely a lot of good stuff as well. Definitely have to give props to music from, if I'm not mistaken, her name is Casey Williams, Jeff Williams, and 2 or 3 other people who also worked on the music, whose names are, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Abrams, Steve Goldshine, and James Landino. Like all of them do really good with the music within RWBY, and how you hear a lot of the different tracks. It's just really good stuff to listen to and really enjoyable and really works well for what you're listening to and what you're watching.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think there's too much more to say unless you two have anything to add.
Like I said, I pretty much said everything I have to say. I really enjoyed this season. I'm looking forward to seeing the next seasons, but don't expect me to catch up until next week because this next week is going to be a bit busy for me. So I'm not sure if I'll have the time.
That's
but
fair.
but
The
you
goal
know,
here. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying that I'm looking forward to see where it goes. And yeah, I think I know what you're saying, but you do that because it's your episode.
Rush, anything?
I enjoyed it. As much as I joked about giving you hell before for this, I did enjoy it. So I do look forward to the next volume.
It's definitely an enjoyable little show, and I don't think you'll feel like you wasted your time watching it, right? And I think that's the best thing that you can get from a show is when you watch it, you feel like that was time well spent and worth the time, right?
Yeah, that's my general feel.
And yeah, definitely, I'm very interested to see what you guys think going forward and how you see things and your opinions and thoughts, as things unveil, so to speak. The plan going forward, I know HC just said we may not do an episode next week, and that's perfectly fine because the plan going forward is to look over all 5 current volumes that have been released of RWBY, leading into the release of Volume 6, which is going to be released, which we now know is going to be released October 27th, the first episode. So the plan is to, if you're a RWBY fan, give you something to enjoy, hopefully, even though it's probably terrible, most assuredly terrible. Hopefully give you something, though, to enjoy in the lead up to the release of Volume 6. And if you're a non-RWBY fan, hopefully talking about the show gets you a little bit interested in wanting to see it and what it's about and find out if it's for you or not.
No, to be honest, if most people on this channel are probably, like, from the people who come here, I think if you're not a RWBY fan watching this, I assume, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. True. But
hey,
said,
who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? With all that said, though, we do hope you've enjoyed. This has been The Outcast and our look at Volume 1 of RWBY. If you have any comments or you would like to say anything, go down in the comments below the video and tell us what you think of RWBY Volume 1. Tell us what you think of our thoughts and opinions, as general as they might be. There's definitely a ton of stuff here to unpack, especially going forward and when we get into more character development, more world building, and things of that nature. And I would genuinely love to give RWBY the Burtcast treatment and give it the same look and in-depth nature that we've done for How to Train Your Dragon. Maybe I'll get that chance, but that's not exactly what this show is for. Either way, if you're a RWBY fan, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's given you something enjoyable, for lack of a better word. And if you're a non-RWBY fan, as I said before, I do hope this gets you interested in the show. If you want to find the Burtcast, you can do so on Tumblr, and you can get in touch with us there as well. We are burtcastteam@tumblr.com. We do have a Twitter account as well, where you can follow us and be notified when we upload new videos. It is Burtcast, capital B, capital C on Twitter. With all of that said, I think that's the usual spiel of the outro that HC gives. So...
yeah, pretty much. I have my criticisms, but it's good.
We'll save them for post-reel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With all that said, we do hope you've enjoyed. I've been your host, Wolf.
I was HC.
And I was Rush.
And until next time, take care.
See ya, everyone.
Bye.